Have you ever opened TikTok and thought, I really wish there was a way this app could capitalize on more of my attention? Thankfully, you are in luck because autoscroll exists. Not only does the app magically open with a bombardment of sound and color, but you can go Tesla hands off. And call me a boomer, and it is true, like, I hate fun. It's becoming increasingly more difficult to be motivated and do the things that I actually want to do, theoretically, allegedly, with my time. And with all of these highly competent people dedicating time to capitalizing on our attention, it begs the question, is digital minimalism possible? And while I think the answer is unequivocally yes, it comes with a lot of sacrifice and a lot of concession that can lead to being pretty disconnected from our culture because so much of it is now created solely online. Hi, I'm Kate. I'm an artist and I like to make videos around things that I want to talk about. And I have been feeling content fatigue. I'm also the kind of person where I'm equally like doomsday and equally like self-help, write quotes on the wall and like talk to myself to motivate myself. And I definitely get a lot of videos in my feed that are like, I tried using a dumb phone for 30 days. I got rid of all my social media apps. I blah, 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 which is probably the silver bullet. Makes sense to me. But will I do it? Probably not. One, probably willpower. But two, I am a musician and I am someone who wants to have something in media or entertainment. Well, ideally art, but are those the same thing now? I don't know. Maybe. And sometimes I feel like participation isn't necessarily an option. And for the most part, I don't mean that for my own selfish reasons. This is something that is specifically designed to capture our attention, right? And so it's not a character failing to struggle with having discipline and boundaries and self-awareness around it because it's genuinely hard. And knowing something is not so good for you does not make it easier to stay away from said thing. There's some study. You are much more likely to eat a piece of candy if it's in a glass jar versus if it's in an opaque jar. And maybe that seems fairly obvious, but just putting ourselves in situations with like a vital piece for many people, a phone where you have the option to indulge in something like the internet, it is quite hard to avoid those hardwired impulses. Not to mention, I don't think everyone has the privilege of having energy and time to be mindful. People who are working like 12 plus hours days just to like hopefully afford rent or, provide for their families are exhausted. Like there's no time to be meditative or cultivate a level of self-awareness when you're so tired from backbreaking work. And so, yeah, maybe the only respite for you is something that's going to be low effort where you can like sit down and have an algorithm feed content to you. And as I touched on, I think a lot of jobs really view having a online presence as a major asset. There are countless musicians, myself included, complaining about how it feels cringy to be out there constantly like, I know you've heard a song, but have you heard my song? It's truly terrifying out there, I gotta say. If you want to reach a certain level of exposure or pave a path in a specific way, it's something you should probably learn to coexist with, but that is much easier said than done. I've had the sense of like, does anyone even want content anymore? As a consumer, sometimes I'll open an app and I try and notice how I feel or when I can, try and think of like, what are my intentions for going to this space? Why am I opening this up? Or even after I close the app, how do I feel? And I've been noticing more and more, there have been times where I've been very careful about cultivating a feed that inspires me more or less. But every once in a while, something will pop in that will give me a negative feeling. It doesn't feel very fulfilling. But at the same time, the same places, the same apps have awarded me with so many different opportunities that I don't think I would have wanted otherwise. But as a consumer, am I craving more content? Most of the time, the answer is no, because the way that these platforms are designed is that it encourages cheap, consistent, in many cases shallow, in my opinion, creations. And for me, that doesn't make me, I don't feel cozy with that. I saw this TikTok the other day that talked about how there's no space for quote unquote regular people or people who choose not to be entertainers to express themselves on these apps. And now, because there's so much competition and media is sought to be another zero-sum game, we're constantly comparing ourselves to people who are professional entertainers. You are always being entertained. You are always being marketed to, however subliminally, like including this video. Like, what? There's no reason for me to talk on here for other than, some level of personal gain, right? And it feels like there's kind of this inevitable downfall of apps that used to be genuinely fun. I thought it was particularly interesting when we saw the surge of Be Real come about. First of all, the name is awesome, especially when I watched many be so panicked when the real time came and you had to, look real. I've never really been on the app, so I can't really speak to that experience, but I can talk about how every app seems to have this cycle of like, it's really fun, then we see some creators come out of it, and then the app realizes, oh, look, we're still beholden to our shareholders who expect a perpetual stream of growth, which is inevitably unsustainable. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then the ads come. We see there's so many TikTok shop ads. I remember Vine had the same issue when it felt like everything was sponsored for that weird energy drink. Was it Bang? I don't remember. But yeah, it happens. And do not even get me started on Twitter. I cannot. Whew, that one's far gone. But there's more to that story. Anecdotally, I wonder like if there's going to be more places where there's a separation between algorithmically fed things and things that are curated by a certain group of people. I don't know which is necessarily better, but I did get the opportunity to release one of my songs on this platform called Marine Snow. And it's this very specific, I don't know if it's an app. I don't know if it's like a streaming platform, the best way to describe it, but it's only songs like curated by these tastemakers, and they pay the artists out front for music that you're already putting out. It's amazing. It's really cool from the artist's perspective. But I remember reading their documents and they said something like, we're in an age akin to like the content as fast food, and we're trying to create a space where people can count on finding things that are more fulfilling or wholesome or what have you. Interestingly enough, I'm reading this book right now. It's called Exit Interview by Christy Coulter, and it's about an ex-Amazon higher up and what it was like working up in that workforce and then also leaving, making the decision to leave and become a writer. I'm still very early on in the book, very great writer, highly recommend. But one of the chapters, she came in as part of the merchandising team, and when Amazon first started, they had a set of like voracious readers, people, music, and DVD, like movie curators. And then they realized that's not what makes money. So everything switched to, you might also like, algorithmic based. And I don't know if that's necessarily bad or good, but it does make me think just how different everyone's experience is based on what content they're fed, and how we have less cornerstone pieces of culture to connect with each other on. And with that, and with the content cycle, and with algorithms also on the creator side promoting a pace of output that feels very unsustainable, we had to also talk about creator fatigue and how we're kind of seeing a YouTuber exodus at the moment. I'm really happy that people feel like they can share the downsides of pursuing something like this that's easily idolized and put their well-being first. I think that's amazing, but it is sad to see that a platform, or many platforms that may inspire and ignite and serve as a platform for creativity, can also completely destroy that. We can't have that discussion without thinking about AI's role in all of this. It's kind of funny how we are making more content to feed more engines to put out more cheap content, and it's all gonna balloon, you know? It's so, why do we need that much? I don't know. I feel like that's a lot of information that I don't think we were meant to have that much information on a regular basis. I need to make a video about AI, but we'll get there. Is there hope? I'm hoping. I do see collectively, I feel like we're all kind of starting to agree, like, maybe this isn't such a good idea, and everyone doesn't feel great about this. And so I'm hoping that a positive outcome out of all of this is that we'll kind of turn back in and reevaluate what we value as people and communities. I do believe we're at a very important inflection point, and I'm cautiously optimistic about what's to come, but I do feel like it might get worse before it's going to get better, especially with the dawn of so much AI content. But one thing I'm very thankful for is pickleball. I think it was so cool. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I feel like I've seen a surge of people just come to love this in-person communal activity out of nowhere. And that is so much more exciting to me than like people going crazy over a Stanley Cup or, whatever trend that is attached to buying something online. I hope that the pendulum swings in a way that we start to crave more community and take action towards it, because I do believe that we're all very social creatures and we need each other, and we need to be able to trust each other now more than ever, because we're all so in our little algorithmic bubbles. And yeah, hope we can pop some bubbles. That's all I got. Would love to hear your thoughts. I literally make these videos because I want to talk to someone else about them. Give me your thoughts. Hope you have a great one. And yeah, I will see you later. Bye-bye.